All your favorite wrestling shows rolled into one. Welcome to the We Book It podcast. Let's start the show.
Wow. Okay. That was an intro I was not expecting right there. I guess that is brand new. Wow. That was a good one too. That threw me off there. But hey, welcome to another edition of the AEW recap. I am your host, Coach, here going over everything for AEW Dynamite tonight. And it was a loaded show once again. We also have some rumors kicking in. Not sure if it's going to happen at Dynamite or Collision, but we will definitely talk about that going on near the end of the show. So let's go ahead. Let's jump right in, as they are just 11 days from Double or Nothing on May 24th. So we kick off the night. We immediately have a 10-man tag match, which is the Young Bucks, Christian Cage, Copeland, and Orange Cassidy versus FTR, the Dogs, and Tommaso Ciampa. So before all this starts, we get to talk with MJF backstage from Renee Podcast, asking about the title versus hair stipulation against Darby Allin, but MJF wouldn't talk about it. And as he did it, pretty funny that they had most of the bald wrestlers lined up in a row looking at MJF. So that was a pretty fun way to open it. But as we start out, we have Ciampa starting out for the heel team. This was really just a straight up brawl once again. It was more of a continuation of how last week ended for AEW Dynamite and Collision. It was just constant brawling, nothing wrong with that. But you know how AEW is sometimes. It is chaos from start to finish. We saw a lot of great executions, but again, just like last week, knowing who was the legal person in the match, very confusing. I don't know how the ref kept up with it. There was good energy, but it just seemed a little out of whack, and it was basically just like how last week was when it ended. So it was basically wash, rinse, repeat with this one. You just added in Ciampa and Orange Cassidy. But either way, still a pretty good match. It was, I don't know if this was intentional or not, or if it was coordinated, but Copeland and the Bucks had color coordinated gear. So I don't know if that's something to look into, or if it's just a mere coincidence. But yeah, this match it was crazy. It was just not, it was very confusing at times. Entertaining, sure. Just not the best. All right, we get to our next match, which is Mike Bailey taking on a local talent by the name Westbrook. And I mean, it was okay for the most part, but then Westbrook slipped when trying to get on the ropes, and then Bailey took advantage and won. And this was essentially just a squash match. Yeah, that happened. So 2 straight squash matches for Bailey. I am curious to see what they have in store. If this is what they're doing, is trying to build him up for something, possibly a match with Kevin Knight. I don't know. I could definitely see that happening with those two breaking up together, and Bailey trying to get a singles title. I don't know, but it's interesting that he is getting 2 squash matches in a row because he did have one last week on Collision as well. We then go to our next match, which is a Kevin Knight TNT Open Challenge for his championship, and Brian Cage was the one to accept this challenge. And Cage looked pretty good in this match, and he's definitely looked he looks bigger, but in a better way than not just like big around, like more muscular, which was really good, really nice to see for him. Used his power to start, was throwing Knight around the ring, and once Knight would get some offenses, Cage would counter. He actually hit a suicide dive, sent him crashing to the floor. One thing about Cage is he does a great job working with guys who are smaller than him, and that is a compliment to him because some powerhouses have a really hard time adjusting to a smaller opponent. But Cage is quick and agile, more than you would expect, so he had no problem matching Knight's speed and agility as well. It didn't come down to it that Knight did pick up the win, so Knight retains his TNT championship, but really this was a match to showcase Brian Cage, and he has always been underused so far, so I'm hoping for his sake that this is going to put him back into some better eyes with creative, but who knows? But definitely Brian Cage did a great job, and Knight is always fun to watch from my standpoint. So good on him for both of them for putting on a really solid match. We get to our next match, and it is Will Ospreay versus Ace Austin. So Ospreay, having some training from Death Riders training, wanted to put that to good use against Austin, of course, from the Bang Bang Gang. Ospreay showed some sign of respect, shaking Austin's hands before they locked up, and they started training some counters. You know, typical Ospreay match where everything just kind of goes back and forth. Nobody really gets ahead. But what was interesting was that they weren't trying to be high flying. They were more technical on the ground, and it was a nice change of pace, honestly, in a match like that. Austin focused a lot of his attacks on Ospreay's neck, which, of course, that storyline, you always going to keep building around that with his history of neck injuries. And Ospreay started to get some momentum. And in the end, it was Ospreay that had an arm bar on Austin instead of the hidden blade or Stormbreaker. And that was it. So this was a really good match once again by Will Ospreay. I mean, what else would you expect? But it worked for two reasons for both of these guys. Ospreay did a great job of kind of showing off his adaptations that he can do in the ring, but also it put Ace Austin in a high-profile position without his faction or his tag team. So it makes you want to see him more in just singles action. So he's proven he's more than just a tag team player. He is a singles eventer as well. So very interesting. But as Ospreay won the match, shook hands with Austin, they showed respect to each other. Samoa Joe and the Ops came out to taunt. Titan Ospreay ahead of the Owen Hart tournament match. And then Anthony Bowens and Shibata walked to the ring to get Ospreay, but all of the Death Riders came out to back up Ospreay. We then get to our, sorry, I had to do a quick, had an itch behind my ear. We get to our next match, which is a women's trios match between the Triangle of Madness and the Brawling Birds and Sheeta. So the Triangle of Madness, of course, they took control with some sneak attacks, as typical heels do, but the baby faces recovered and regrouped. What's good about this match, several of these women are really known about being hard-hitting and being aggressive. So this match had really good physicality with it. Ishida, and I don't know, this was good character work by her, seemed hesitant to tag in, but then she did and went on a brief rampage. There was actually a really cool there was a cool sequence with Sky Blue on the barricade. It almost ended up her falling into the laps of a few fans into the crowd. So that was a really nice spot. And then after all of that, it was the Claw that caused a disqualification by hitting Jamie Hayter with the title. So we didn't get a clean ending. Sheeta chose not to help Hayter, but Willow Nightingale, Thunder Rosa, and Shirakawa did come on out to help out. So a little bit of an overbooking there towards the end and kind of an unfortunate way to end it, but this does give me hope that we're going to see something more from these three, and if not the three, definitely those two in Hayter and maybe even Sheeta. Sheeta might be going somewhere, but I don't know. We'll have to focus on that later. All right, we get to our main event of the evening, which is a AEW World Championship match between Darby Allin and Takeshita. Takeshita did a really good job taking control and punishing Allin early. And I mean, that's just kind of what a Darby Allin match is, if we're being honest. It's about him absorbing all of these blows and still going and somehow still being able to push through. And that's just kind of his MO, is that he is that underdog type and he actually feeds off of basically getting hurt. And that's his way of being able to fight. Surprisingly, this wasn't really a bloody match, but it was still violent in a way, if that makes sense. Like, you could sense how violent it was, but you didn't need to have any blood spots or anything, or anybody get cut open to signify that. So I thought that was a really nice touch. That's something unusual in an Allin match, but I think it was a great way to do that. There were two couple spots there. Takeshita swatted Allin out of midair when he was trying to do a move. I thought that was nice. And then also Allin tripping Takeshita into a guillotine submission. That was a really cool spot as well. But this match came to a head when Don Callis tried to interfere. Takeshita waved him off and said he wanted to win on his own. Had a couple of close 2 counts, some nice near falls, but Allin once again hit a pair of coffin drops for the pin and win to end a very, very good match, in a match worthy of being in the main event. So this week's Dynamite, some pretty good action this week. You can kind of be picky about what you thought the match of the night was. I'm sure a lot of people are going to talk about Ospreay being the match of the night. That's fine. But for me, it was really the main event. And I thought Darby Allin and Takeshita did a really, really good job. I also really liked Kevin Knight and Brian Cage's match for the TNT title. It was nice that there are multiple options for a wrestling fan to really enjoy what this one was. As the show ended, MJF came out and signed his hair versus title contract for Double or Nothing, talked some trash, signed on the dotted line, attacked Darby Allin, and then Kevin Knight came out and saved Darby Allin. So that was the end of the show. Now, what we had learned earlier this morning, though, in AEW news, is that, and we were wondering if they're going to make their debut tonight. Now that I've kind of thought about it a little bit more, we might see them at Double or Nothing on the 24th. The New Day, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods, otherwise known as Austin Creed, have been close to signing with AEW. So we might be seeing some more motion in the tag team division. It's already crowded, but you can't let these two just stand on the sideline. You got to get them in the game. So it'll be interesting to see if it happens, if it's going to be confirmed or not. I'm sure they're going to keep it under wraps until Double or Nothing. But that is going to do it for another edition of the AEW Recap. Join me next week as we get to the go-home show before Double or Nothing, which is on the 24th. And it should be a good one. Darby Allin's going to be defending his World Championship again. I assume Kevin Knight's going to have another TNT Open challenge. You can't go wrong with it. And AEW does a really good job of building up into their pay-per-views. So I'm Coach. Special shout out to Big Daddy C for doing my producing tonight, filling in for Virgil. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to all of our content here on the We Book It podcast. As you can see, we have a lot of things happening. We have a new intro. We have all of these shows going on with everybody here on the podcast. So like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to see something from us, or if you just want to discuss wrestling with us. We love hearing from everybody. But until then, I'm Coach, and I will see you next week on another edition of AEW Recap.